Previously on Supergirl, Wynn was the only bright spot in an episode that stole a member of Superman's rogues gallery and summarily pissed all over him. As if continuing to bastardize the Man of Steel's legacy wasn't bad enough, this episode promises to start doing the same for Martian Manhunter. Welcome back to Supergirl. You poor fools. Our episode begins with Supergirl flying into a forest fire to save a helpless family, intercut with her reading a letter from a mother to her child stressing the importance of family. Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. If at this point you guessed that the episode is going to be about a horrific alien genocide, congratulations, you're a more observant viewer than I am. But even with such a serious topic in the queue for this week, the writers first have to take time to throw the shippers a bone lest we forget what show this is. Hence why one episode after Wynn offered Kara his heart and she noped out faster than Daenerys in a Starbucks that's run out of pumpkin spice latte, we have Kara obliviously flirting with a cute boy at the coffee shop after he strikes up a conversation with her about the horrors of working for Cat Grant.
She's amazing.
Hippies and aliens, and yes, that is the order in which I detest them. You better get us a quote that will offend virtually everyone.
Not only at her job, but as a person.
You know, I'm all for anything that's gonna simplify my writing process, but if the show keeps pointing out its own brain farts before I get a chance to, there's gonna be no challenge in this at all. But cue wacky plot twist number 1. Turns out the coffee shop guy who had the audacity to suggest that Cat Grant is not the bestest ever is actually her long-lost son.
What?
Who showed up because of the letter that Kat wrote, but then changed her mind about and threw away, only for Kara to finish writing it for her and mail it because Kara has no concept of personal space, privacy, or human behavior in general. Kara stepped over a big line here, and all things considered, this would be one of those rare occasions when Kat's legendary ire is actually justified. But since these writers seem to human even worse than their main character does, not only does Kat get over her anger shockingly quickly, but she decides that Kara's betrayal of her trust was somehow a good thing.
What?
You know, sarcasm aside, I really have no idea what this show is trying to do with Cat Grant anymore. She routinely tears people down and goes on a warpath over the smallest things, but when her whole life is getting f***ed with and the situation calls for her to really lose her shit like any normal person would, suddenly she's uncharacteristically mellow. Kara's 90 seconds late to respond when Kat screeches her name and Kat nearly blows a gasket, but Kara allows Kat's son's life to be put in danger because she took off while babysitting him, and she receives nothing more than a stern, unapproving glare. Kara shows up for work with a stuffy nose one day, and Kat is so horrified she instantly kicks her out of the building, but Kara tactlessly horns in on a very personal, private, delicate situation that is none of her business, blindsiding Kat with a potentially life-changing situation that by her own admission she wasn't ready to deal with, running the risk of f***ing up any chance Kat might have had of forming a relationship with her firstborn child. And what is Kat's reaction?
Well, this isn't actually awful.
10 seconds of restrained anger, and then an undeserved compliment. Great job, writers. Your mastery of nuanced character dynamics never ceases to amaze.
Oh, by the way, I was being sarcastic.
Anywho, this week's A-plot kicks off with one Senator Crane, who is holding a rally to speak out against the dangers of all the evil extraterrestrials hiding in our midst. Since these writers are not nearly as clever as they seem to think they are, I'm pretty sure they just transcribed any speech you'd hear at a Donald Trump rally and swapped out the word wall with dome and the word immigrants with aliens. And possibly cannibals, but I guess that didn't play well with the focus groups.
We need to know where they live and who they eat.
Unfortunately for the senator, there just happens to be an alien passing by around this time who, for some reason, objects to being lumped in with such esteemed company as Hannibal Lecter and Jeffrey Dahmer simply for committing the crime of existing, so they figure, I'll go on a murderous rampage, that'll teach her the folly of her ways. And so we have an actually pretty cool sequence of this crowd being torn apart by an alien who's a pretty far cry from the Star Trek light ETs the show has dealt with so far. An alien which, thanks to an info dump from Henshaw, is revealed to be a White Martian. And while I am glad to see them starting to explore Henshaw's backstory as an alien, given these writers' less than subtle track record when it comes to identity politics, I can't help but think that handing them a plot point they can twist into a flimsy metaphor for how white people suck might not be the best idea Greg Berlanti's ever signed off on. And if you think I'm joking about that, think again. While even a children's cartoon like Young Justice was able to present the Martian conflict as a complex issue with good and bad people on the White Martian side, Supergirl, in its infinite progressiveness, portrays the White Martians as one-dimensional xenophobic bloodthirsty killers, complete with death camps and a corpse pit. Gee, I wonder what this could possibly be an allegory for. If only there were some clue, like swastikas adorning the fence, or the White Martian sporting a Hitler mustache. Supergirl, just do us all a favor and leave the metaphors to Young Justice from now on, okay?
So can you stay whelmed or not?
The DEO is holding Senator Crane for her own protection, but Henshaw is not coping with the situation very well. He wants this White Martian dead, but aside from a lot of previously unmentioned PTSD, he's got it in his head that if he confronts the creature, it will somehow be the end of his life posing as the head of the DEO. Seems to me that the solution to this problem is for Henshaw to simply not show the White Martian who his human disguise is, but apparently the stupid ball has passed back to Henshaw this week, so this doesn't occur to him. And with Maxwell Lord sitting this episode out, and Wynn's appearance barely a cameo, God help them, it's up to Kara and James to be the smart ones in the cast. This went very badly for James the last time he tried it, so this week he's staying firmly in his comfort zone of looking at pictures and pointing at things. He notices that one of his photos taken of Senator Crane after Supergirl saved her reveals that she is the White Martian in disguise. So all it takes to break through their concealment is a Photoshop filter? If your code can be cracked by a typical Tumblr GIF maker, maybe it's time you give back your shapeshifter license. Though, credit to him, at least they're putting more effort into it than Mystique did. So with the White Martian's cover blown, she drops the act and starts mowing down DEO agents left and right until Supergirl chases her off. Then, rather than staying on the trail of this kill-crazy monster and trying to stop her before she savagely butchers many more innocent people, Supergirl decides to rush back to Catco to console her boss after Cat's dinner with her son didn't quite go to plan. Because of all the times for Kara to start taking her job seriously, the writers thought this was the most appropriate one.
I can't help it. When someone needs help, I'll help them.
I get that.
Well, I'm sure Kat at least appreciates the countless lives that are no doubt being put in horrible danger while Kara wastes time catering to her every whim.
If you're not going to be here to handle my calls, Kira, then I suggest you just keep walking and throw yourself off the balcony.
Now, dinner with her son Adam could not have gone much worse, so Kat's bad mood is at least understandable this time. But she's quick to flush any sympathy the audience might have had for her down the crapper by blaming this failure on Kara not preparing her before putting her in a situation that would require her to act like she has actual human emotions for one evening, conveniently forgetting that Kara actually did try to advise her on what to say and how to act during dinner. Refresh my memory, Kat. How did you respond to that again?
Oh, Kira, shut up.
Gotcha. So let's just blame the whole thing on Kara. And yes, it is absolutely her fault, but Kat's not exactly blameless here either. So basically, the only innocent party in a situation wherein he's surrounded on all sides by idiots and assholes is this poor bastard. I'd advise him to remember what show he's on and get the hell out of Dodge, but Kara implores him to give Kat one more chance because she's really not that bad. They just got off on the wrong foot.
I know you think your mom is this heartless, narcissistic monster.
Who told you to think?
There is this inspiring person in there.
No, get out. You're fired.
A hero.
I am going to make your life hell.
Good lord, it's like poking holes in Swiss cheese. I barely have to try at this point. So Kat and Adam hash things out with Kara acting as a mediator, because even though they're only in this mess because of her, I guess she couldn't possibly make things worse at this point, so f*** it. Meanwhile, the bloodthirsty genocidal killer is still on the loose, so maybe we should check in on that for a minute. The DEO has tracked down the White Martian's hideout and rescued the real Senator Crane, but thanks to Whitey playing the old switcheroo, Alex gets captured in the process. This just might be the straw that broke the camel's back for Henshaw, who's pretty torn up and trying to reconcile his desire for brutal Beatrix Kiddo-style revenge against one of the monsters that massacred his entire race, with his desire to trade himself for Alex and just let the bitch kill him because being alive when his family isn't anymore is just a little too much for him to take. Supergirl, utilizing her infamously tenuous grasp of continuity, tries to convince him that neither course of action is a great idea. Also, Supergirl knows that survivor's guilt is a thing because, wouldn't you know it, that's why her mother didn't join her in the pod that took her to Earth.
Now I know she felt guilty.
Or because the pod was obviously only built to hold one small child, clearly would not fit 2 people, and probably had a limited air supply, so trying to cram another person in there would most likely have gotten both of them killed, so revisionist history for the win, but you know, whatever fits your narrative. So Henshaw gets his Martian on, and him and Supergirl fight the White Devil together. It seems like an open and shut battle until Henshaw puts the kryptonite cuffs on Supergirl. Where the hell was he hiding those this whole time? And finally gets the chance to exact bloody vengeance on one of the monsters responsible for his family now fertilizing the Martian soil. Given the downright intimidating body count she's amassed in this episode alone, Henshaw would draw no complaints from me if he wanted to go full-blown Mad Queen Daenerys on this bastard. But since it's apparently a theme of this episode, Supergirl just cannot seem to stop insinuating herself into situations that do not concern her.
Do not throw away who you are.
Surprise, motherfucker.
You know, writers, if you were dead set on playing out this remember who you are, don't become a killer narrative, maybe you should have done that before the episode where Henshaw killed someone with his bare hands, and with someone other than the remorseless alien death machine who views humanity as nothing more than insects to be crushed under her scaly, blood-soaked feet. Giving this one a bullet between the eyes would make the Earth a lot safer if you ask me. But since Supergirl always has to be right, continuity and common sense be damned, Henshaw decides to just lock the White Martian up, even though he was previously worried about her exposing his identity, and now she knows who he is and could tell literally anyone at the DEO that he's an alien, and I don't know why that's suddenly not an issue anymore, but f*** it, we're almost done here. So Wynn seems to have gotten over his hurt feelings from last week completely off camera, because it's not like we'd want to see that huge plot point get followed up on or anything. Senator Crane walks back on her anti-alien stance because Supergirl showed her that not all aliens are analogs for Nazis, only the ugly ones. Adam decides to stick around for a bit, and Kara makes a date with him, which Kat is actually okay with. Seems like a pretty massive red flag, but what do I know? And our episode comes to a close as the news covers a Supergirl doppelganger saving someone's life while the real Supergirl relaxes on a couch, stuffing her face with ice cream. I already like the doppelganger better. Strange Visitor from Another Planet seems like it's trying to be good, but it's not. I tend to feel a bit more forgiving whenever episodes attempt to make Cat Grant more three-dimensional than the tyrannical despot of media she's usually portrayed as. But when her character can't even stay consistent from one scene to the next, those efforts just feel like wasted space. Having Kara argue that Kat is not a heartless narcissist doesn't mean much when Kat spends 95% of the episode acting like a heartless narcissist. By that point, her spending the other 5% inexplicably showing some kind of human emotion the writers may have thought was genuine, even at times when frankly it would have been more appropriate for her to be pissed off, plays out as if the character's moods are completely dictated by whatever the plot needs them to be at any given time. And I feel like I should be somewhat generous to the White Martian stuff, because they went to a darker place here that was pretty far out of their comfort zone, and they tried, in their own quaintly incompetent way, to examine some very serious topics, give them some real gravity, and some of those scenes actually do work on their own. But the allegory is handled with the same baffling lack of subtlety and childishly simplistic approach this show takes when commenting on feminism and gender politics. And when the climax of the story hinges on such an obvious, ridiculous retcon, it pretty much craps all over any goodwill they might have built up by trying a story like this in the first place.
You are not a murderer.
No, Hank, don't throw away who you are, don't become a killer. Wait, what? You already killed someone? Who cares, that was 4 episodes ago, no one's gonna remember that. Good grief. Leave it to the cast and crew of Supergirl to roll out the darkest, most serious narrative they've ever attempted, and have it be instantly invalidated by a plot point that happened a month before. Pretty lame, writers. I suppose I should give them a little credit for at least trying to do something more mature than the usual brain droppings they crank out, but they just didn't have the tools to pull it off. And when you're trying to do a serious story about a serious issue, but you're not making a serious effort to do it right, maybe you shouldn't be doing it at all. If you enjoyed this review, leave a comment down below. And while you're here, help me lock the YouTube algorithm in the kryptonite cuffs by liking, sharing, subscribing, smashing that bell icon for notifications, and following me on Twitter using the link in the description box so you'll always know when new videos get uploaded. I talk movies, TV, comics, trailers, and more, so if you like what you see here, stay tuned, and I'll be back real soon with the next one. Until then, over. Out. Man, that White Martian thing really came out of nowhere. A really huge and crucial part of J'onn J'onz's character that fans have been waiting for months, and that could have been a really awesome reveal if they'd laid the groundwork and built up to it properly. But no, they just threw it out there all of a sudden without even setting the stage first. Pretty big letdown if you ask me. Thankfully, we have much higher standards on this show. Achoo! Shit.